Chapter 4. Elvin and I are back in her foyer. I'll meet you in my office in half an hour. Okay, I say, as Elvin heads down the corridor and out of sight. I take off my coat and put it in the closet. I should use this time to check in with Frankie. If I don't reach out to update her soon, she'll track me down. I just have to decide how I'm going to handle it. How do I make sure she doesn't try to wrestle us away from me? I think my only option is to pretend everything going on is going according to plan. My only plan is to lie. I breathe. One of my earliest memories from when I was a child was of my parents bringing me to Zuma Beach in Malibu. It was still springtime, I think. The water hadn't warmed yet enough for comfort. My mom stayed on the sand, setting down a blanket and an umbrella, while my dad scooped me up and ran with me down to the shoreline. I remember feeling weightless in his arms, and then he put my feet in the water, and I cried, telling him it was too cold. He agreed with me. It was cold, but then he said, just breathe in and out 5 times, and you're done. I bet it won't feel so cold. I watched as he put his feet in. I watched him breathe, and I put my feet back in and breathed with him. He was right, of course. It wasn't so cold. After that, my dad would breathe me anytime I was on the verge of tears. When I skinned my elbow, when my cousin called me an Oreo, when my mom said we couldn't get a puppy, when my father would sit and breathe me. It still hurts, all these years later, to think about those moments. But for now, I keep breathing right here in Evelyn's foyer, centering myself as he taught me. And then, when I feel calm, I pick up my phone and dial Frankie. Montague, she answers on the second ring. Tell me, how's it going? It's going well, I say. I'm surprised at how even and flat my voice is. Elvin is pretty much everything you'd expect from an icon. Still gorgeous, charismatic as ever. And things are progressing. Is she committing to talk about any other topics than the gowns? What can I say now to start comforting my own ass? You know, she's pretty reticent about anything other than getting some press for the auction. I'm trying to play nice at the moment. Get her to trust me a bit more before I start pushing. Will she sit for cover? It's too early to tell. Trust me, Frankie, I say. And I hate how sincere it sounds coming out of my mouth. I know how important this is, but right now, the best thing for me to do is to make sure Elvin likes me, so that I can try to garner some influence and advocate for what we want. Okay, Frankie says. Obviously, I want more than a few sound bites about dresses, but that's still more than any other magazine has gotten from her in decades. So, Frankie keeps talking, but I've stopped listening. I'm far too focused on the fact Frankie is not even going to get sound bites. And I'm going to get far more. I should go, I say, excusing myself. She and I are talking again in a few minutes. I hang up my phone and breathe out. I've got this shit. As I make my way through the apartment, I hear Grace in the kitchen. I open the swinging door and spot her cutting flower stems. Sorry to bother you. Elvin said to meet you in her office, and I'm not sure where that is. Oh, Grace says, putting down scissors and wiping her hands on a towel. I'll show you. I follow her up a set of stairs and into Elvin's study area. The walls are striking flat charcoal gray, and the area rung a golden beige. The large windows are flanked by dark blue curtains, and the opposite side of the room are built-in bookcases. A gray blue couch sits facing an oven-sized glass desk. Grace smiles and leaves me to wait for Elvin. I drop my bag on the sofa and check my phone. You take the desk, Elvin says as she comes in. She hands me a glass of water. I can only assume the way this works is that I talk and you write. I suppose, I say, sitting on the desk chair. I've never attempted to write a biography before. After all, I'm not a biographer. Elvin looks at me pointedly. She sits opposite me on the sofa. Let me explain something to you. When I was 14 years old, my mother had already died, and I was living with my father. The older I got, the more I realized that it was only a matter of time until my father tried to marry me off to a friend of his or his boss, someone who could help his situation. And if I'm being honest, the more I developed, the less secure I was in the idea that my father might try to take something of me for himself. We were so broke that we were stealing the electricity from the apartment above us. There was one outfit in our place that was on their circuit, so we plugged anything we needed to use into that one socket. If I needed to do homework after it got dark, I plugged in a lamp into that outlet and sat underneath it with my book. My mother was a saint. I really mean it, stunningly beautiful and an incredible singer with a heart of gold. For years before she died, she would always tell me that that we were gonna get out of Hell's Kitchen and go straight to Hollywood. She said she said she was going to be the most famous woman in the world and get us a mansion on the beach. I had this fantasy of us together in a house, throwing parties, drinking champagne, and then she died. It was like waking up from a dream. Suddenly, I was in a world where none of this was ever going to happen, and I was going to be stuck in Hell's Kitchen forever. I was gorgeous, even at 14. Oh, I knew the whole world prefers a woman who doesn't know her power, but I'm sick of all that. I turned heads. Now, I take no pride in this. I didn't make my own face. I didn't make my own face. I didn't give myself this body. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, shucks, people really thought I was pretty. Like some kind of prig. My friend Beverly knew a guy in this building named Ernie Diaz, who was an electrician, and Ernie knew a guy over at MGM. At least, that was the rumor going around. And one day, Beverly told me that she heard Ernie was up for some job rigging the lights in Hollywood. So that weekend, I made up a reason to go to Beverly's, and I accidentally knocked on Ernie's door. I knew exactly where Bernie was, but I knocked on Ernie's door and said, "Have you seen Bernie Gustafson?" Ernie was 22. He wasn't handsome by any means, but he was fine to look at. He said he hadn't seen her, but I watched as he continued to stare at me. I watched as his eyes started at mine and grazed their way down, scanning every inch of me in my favorite green dress. And then Ernie said, "Sweetheart, are you 16? I was 14, remember. "But do you know what I did?" I said, "Why, I just turned." Elvin looks at me with purpose. "Do you understand what I'm telling you? When we're given an opportunity to change your life, be ready to do whatever it takes to make it happen. The world doesn't give things to you. Give things, you take things. If you learn one thing from me, it should probably be that." "Wow, okay." I say, "You've never been a biographer before, but you are one starting now." I nod my head. "I got it." "Good," Elvin says, relaxing into the sofa. "So where do you want to begin?" I grab my notebook and look at the scribbled words I've covered the last few pages with. There are dates and film titles referring to classic images of her, rumors with question marks after them. And then, in big letters, I went over and over with my pen, darkening each letter until I changed the texture of the page I've written. Who was the love of Elvin's life? That was the big question. That's the hook of this book. 7 husbands. Which one did she love the best? Which one was the real one? As both a journalist and a consumer, that's what I want to know. It won't be where the book begins, but maybe that's where she and I should begin. I want to know, going into these marriages, which is the one that matters the most. I look at Elvin to look at her sitting up, ready for me. Who was the love of your life? Was it Harry Cameron? Evelyn thinks and answers slowly. Not in the way you mean, no. In what way, then? Harry was my greatest friend. He invented me. He was the person who loved me the most unconditionally. The person I loved the most purely, I think, other than my daughter. But no, he was not the love of my life. Why not? Because that was someone else. Okay, who was the love of your life, then? Elvin nods, as if this is the question she had been expecting, as if the situation is unfolding exactly as she knew it would. But then she shakes her head again. "You know what?" she says, standing up. "It's getting late, isn't it?" I look at my watch. "It's mid-afternoon, isn't it?" "I think it is," she says. She walks towards the door. "All right," I say, standing up to meet her. Elvin puts her arm around me and leads me out to the hallway. "Let's pick up again on Monday. Would that be okay?" Sure." "Elvin, did I say anything to offend you?" Elvin leads me down the stairs. "Not at all," she says, waving my fears aside. "Not at all." There is a tension I can't quite put my finger on. Elvin walks with me until we hit the floor. She opens the closet. I reach in and grab my coat. Back here, Elvin says. Monday morning? When do you say we start around? What do you say we start around 10? Okay, I say, putting my thick coat around my glasses. If that's what you'd like. Elvin nods. She looks past me for a moment, over my shoulder, but appearing not to actually be looking at anything in particular. Then she opens her mouth. I've spent a long time learning how to spin the truth, she says. It's hard to undo that writing. I've gotten too good at it. I think just now it wasn't exactly sure how to tell the truth. I don't have very much practice in it. She feels antithetical to my survival, but I'll get there. I nod, unsure of how to respond. So, Monday? Monday, Ellen says, with a long blink and a nod. I'll be ready then. I walk past the subway in the chilly air. I cram myself into a car packed with people, holding onto the handrail above my head. I walk to my apartment and open my front door. I sit on the couch, open my laptop, and answer some emails. I start to order something for dinner, and it is only when I go to put my feet up that I remember there is no coffee table. For the first time since he left, I have not come into this apartment immediately thinking of David. Instead, what plays in the back of my mind all weekend, from my Friday night to my Saturday night, out my Sunday morning at the night. How did my marriage fall? But rather, who the hell was Eleven Hugo in love with?